Ever feel like politics needs a little more, Hollywood drama?
I see where you're going with this.
Kamala Harris. Am I right or am I right?
Definitely a figure who grabs your attention.
First female VP, first this, first that, breaking barriers left and right. But also, let's be honest, kind of polarizing.
Yeah, you don't reach that level of visibility without attracting some strong opinions along the way.
Exactly. So is she a hero? Is she a villain? Honestly, after digging through all the research, even we're like, tough call.
That's what makes these deep dives so fascinating, right?
100%. But let's start at the beginning. Kamala Harris, born to immigrant parents, Jamaican dad, Indian mom, big emphasis on education, activism, all that good stuff.
And that right there, that's not your typical backstory for someone ending up a heartbeat away from,
From the Oval Office. It's like how many future presidents spent their childhoods attending civil rights marches?
not many. It really highlights how statistically unusual her journey has been.
Talk about defying the odds.
It speaks volumes about her drive, her ambition.
Right.
But it also, I think, forces us to confront the systemic hurdles that make her success such a big deal in the first place.
Right. Like if it's this hard for someone with her talent and determination to get there.
Exactly. It makes you wonder how many other brilliant minds, how many potential leaders we might be missing out on.
And that's the bigger picture we got to keep in mind. But okay, back to Kamala. So she goes to law school, right? And then boom, prosecutor.
Not just any prosecutor. We're talking about rising through the ranks, becoming district attorney, the top legal eagle for a major city.
And she doesn't stop there. Then it's like, bam, Attorney General of California, all before some people even figure out what they want to be when they grow up.
And just when you think, okay, she's got to be slowing down. Nope.
Yep.
U.S. Senator. Talk about a meteoric rise.
Zoom, 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 straight to the top. But that kind of trajectory, it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
About the compromises, the choices made along the way, for sure.
You don't climb that ladder without maybe stepping on a few toes. And this is where things get really interesting. Because even back then, even her critics had to admit, the woman was sharp. Like scary sharp.
A reputation for tough questioning, no doubt.
Especially on issues like civil rights, healthcare, criminal justice reform. Like she came ready to play,
And these weren't just convenient talking points for her. Look at her career. Look at the sources, these themes, they're woven throughout her work.
So we're not just talking ambition here, we're talking conviction.
Right. This suggests a genuine, deep-rooted commitment to social justice, something that goes way back, not a recent PR move.
Okay, so we're starting to see a fuller picture here, right? We've got ambition, maybe a touch of ruthlessness, but also this deep passion for these causes.
And that, I think, is what makes her such a compelling figure to study, the contradictions, the complexities.
Absolutely. But for me, the real turning point, the moment that really puts her on the map, is the American Rescue Plan.
Now we're talking. This wasn't just some policy debate in a stuffy room somewhere.
This was about pulling the country back from the brink during a global pandemic, no less. Talk about high stakes.
And Harris's role in all of that, advocating for that bill as VP, it's huge. You really see her leadership style in action, navigating all the political landmines to deliver real, tangible help to people.
And we're not talking about some abstract economic theory here.
Right. This was about putting money directly into people's pockets.
Stimulus checks, boosted unemployment, keeping small businesses afloat.
It was about targeting those hit hardest. Remember how we talked about her commitment to social justice?
Exactly.
The sources really emphasize how the American Rescue Plan prioritized aid to marginalized communities.
It wasn't just about rescuing the economy, it was about rescuing it fairly.
Trying to level the playing field a little bit. Now, I know we're deep in policy wonk territory here.
My favorite place.
But can we just take a moment to appreciate the lighter side of Kamala Harris?
Oh, you mean Mamala?
Exactly. The woman loves to cook, apparently has some legendary family recipes.
Makes you wonder if she ever whips up a batch of cookies in the White House kitchen.
Right. It's just this nice reminder that these figures, they're not just politicians.
They're people, too. With hobbies and quirks and, lives outside of D.C.
Exactly. It adds another layer to how we see her. But let's be real. You don't reach her level without ruffling some feathers.
True that. Our sources don't shy away from the criticisms, do they?
No, they don't. And that's important. We can't just ignore the dissenting voices.
Right. Gotta look at all sides.
Some critics point to her record as prosecutor, arguing it wasn't always as progressive as her current stances might suggest.
It's interesting, right? This tension between her past and her present.
And it's not just about being a prosecutor. Some question her handling of the pressure as VP.
Like she hasn't always risen to the occasion.
There's this sense, and the sources hint at this, that she's been hesitant to make those tough calls when it really mattered.
Which is funny because earlier we were talking about her grilling people in the Senate.
Exactly. It's different when you're the one in the hot seat.
Right. Easier to criticize from the sidelines.
100%. And this is where the comparison to someone like Trump really throws those differences into sharp relief.
Oh boy, here we go. The sources definitely draw a line between Harris and Trump. Talk about two sides of the same coin.
Or maybe two completely different coins altogether.
It's like, on one hand, you've got Harris championing social justice, fighting climate change, pushing for a more inclusive society. And on the other hand, you have Trump's approach.
Less government regulation, a very different stance on immigration, a whole different philosophy.
It's like choosing your own adventure, but for the future of the country. It's kind of wild, right? Like, we're standing at this crossroads, and which way we go, it's going to shape everything.
No pressure, right?
Seriously. So where does that leave someone like Kamala Harris? Shattered those glass ceilings, no doubt, fought tooth and nail for her belief.
But also faced her fair share of criticism, as we've been discussing.
Exactly. So how do we even begin to unpack her legacy? I mean, is it too early to say?
It's interesting, right? Because her story's still being written. Think about it. Will she go down in history as that trailblazer, the one who kicked open the door for women, for minorities in American politics?
I mean, you can't deny that impact.
Absolutely. But then there's that other side of the coin, those controversies, the criticisms we talked about. Will they end up overshadowing everything else?
Right, right. And that's what makes this whole thing so tricky. Remember how we started? Hero or villain?
Yeah, I'm starting to think that's maybe a little too simple.
Way too simple. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's neither. Maybe she's just, a complex person trying to navigate a complex world.
And trying to make a difference, for better or worse.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that what makes studying these larger-than-life figures so fascinating?
Totally. No easy answers, just more questions. And speaking of questions, we've thrown a lot of info at you today, but it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh yeah, this deep dive. Consider it a starting point.
There's a whole universe of articles, speeches, analysis out there, so if you're really intrigued,
dive in, keep digging, keep those critical thinking caps on.
And while you're at it, here's a final thought to ponder. How will history remember Kamala Harris decades from now?
Don't just take our word for it. Form your own conclusions.
Love it. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.